Okay, we're back to talk about Widow's Bay on Apple TV, episodes 6 and 7. Those episodes are History and Seasickness. Episode 6, written by Alberto Roldan, directed by T. West. Episode 7, written by Dave Harris, directed by Sam Donovan. In 1702, a woman named Sarah Westcott arrives in Widow's Bay to marry Richard Warren, the founder of the island and the widowed father of 5 children. But once she's there, she begins to notice some really strange things happening: illnesses, disappearances, disturbing behavior from her new husband. She witnesses Richard kill another man, so she approaches the pastor of the town for help. Pastor and others in town believe Richard is killed before, including his previous wife, and they agree to try and kill him. When Richard is unable to be killed, Sarah and the townspeople create another plan to poison him. She tries to do that, but she's discovered and only escapes when Richard's oldest son attacks him and frees Sarah. She's able to escape with the 5 children via the boat, while others in the town try to bury Richard alive. He reveals at that moment he made a pact with the evil to protect them during their first winter on the island, but now the island requires sacrifices, lest the evil will return. In the present day, Wick and Patricia dig up Richard's grave to try and uncover some of the answers about the island. They tell Tom what they have done, and they discover that Richard is still alive after they exhume him. Richard describes taking mushrooms and first agreeing to the pact to protect the island. He believes the evil could be broken if he dies and the last of his bloodline dies, so he convinces Tom and Wick to take him out to the boat, the dead zone, where he believes he will age and pass away. While on the water, Richard changes his mind and attacks Tom and Wick. Two were able to force him back to his coffin before they reach the dead zone boundary, and once they get there, Richard does die, turning into just bone and ash, leaving Tom and Wick to believe that the curse may be over. Back on the island, Evan and Kelly from Off Island break into Tom's lockbox and discover photos that show Evan's mother was alive long after she gave birth to Evan. You referenced this right before we sort of started here, that there would be some reasons, I think, why they doubled up on episodes. Episode 6 was clearly going
Hmm.
back more than 300 years. Then we got sort of directly into this episode with Richard and sort of exploring more of his lore and what he did on the island. What's your general thoughts on sort of this 2 episode, one of them being a flashback, sort of doing it back to back? I sort of felt like with what they uncovered in the flashback episode, they really needed to go straight into this one, not leave us hanging for another week.
Yeah, I mean, so I enjoyed the flashback episode in large part because I enjoyed Betty Gilpin so much, I suppose. Beyond that, I could question whether you, quote, needed it. So maybe not, but if it was an enjoyable episode, then who cares whether it was, quote, necessary? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it makes sense that they put out the two in narrative terms. I don't know about you, at the end of episode 6, I did think, well, he's going to be alive in that coffin, but I don't know if that was just me or if everyone was feeling that way. But it was like, no, it was no surprise to me whatsoever that he was alive.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is I think that if you were alive and trapped in a coffin for 300 years, you probably would have gone significantly more insane. But
There was
yeah,
certainly a level of clarity, a level of sanity coming out of there. Can't speak much to the decrepitness of what you would look like if you've been cursed and you're sitting in a coffin for 300 years, but he had quite a bit of lucidity about him and certainly was able to um, maybe uh, get the strength to attack the guys later in the night. But yeah, it's after 300 years in there, uh, quite a lot to discuss there, I think.
yeah, well, it's just having read some accounts of the effects of solitary confinement and things like this. So I don't know. I mean, it's absurd to criticize the show for being quote implausible about this or something, I guess. But
Yeah.
it does seem to me like I don't know, did you read it this way when because they let him out of the coffin on the boat
Hmm.
to Wick's chagrin, because Tom is being a dum dum. Um, and then they're like feeding him Vienna sausage and stuff. And I kind of got the feeling it was like because he was eating, that was what was giving him his strength. Did you read it that way, or?
Yeah, he hadn't had any food in 320 years, so he just had to pop in a few Vienna sausages, and he's good to go after that, right?
Well, I don't know if it was just Vienna sausage. It looked like cat food. I don't know what all he was eating in that scene. It was kind of gross. But yeah. So the two episodes go together. Hamish Linklater's character, Richard, sort of the thread that ties them together. More things to talk about there. I think the fact they flow together so much that a lot of our conversation might end up being more about episode seven than episode six. So
Yeah.
before that happens of its own accord, as it were, what further thoughts about episode six and the kind of I don't know, I don't know, flashback right word or kind of prequel episode or back in 1702. More thoughts directly about that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think this was meant to give us as much, without probably ruining some things in their head, give us as much lore as they possibly could. So we think we can sort of understand in a general sense what has happened here. They arrive at the island. For some reason, in some way, there's an evil presence on the island that's going to require something to happen or is going to put this evil curse across the island unless someone like Richard Warren makes a pact with it where they will, I guess, make regular sacrifices. And if he makes regular sacrifices, then the evil will stay away from the island in some sense, maybe not being as bad as it would have been. And so he has agreed to take on this burden. He tells people that it's something that he must do. But because of this, obviously they think that he is in sort of concert with or become the devil. So we do get a lot of sort of big lore dump here. But at the same time, I think sort of setting up some breadcrumbs for what happens not only in the next episode, but will happen in the episodes still to come. So I guess I'm satisfied with what lore we got, but probably not surprised with sort of the explanation. I think we kind of understood sort of this, maybe this was something where it was going.
Yeah, although I think you're filling in a little bit of something there where maybe I have more of a question, which is about the nature of this pact or
Yeah.
whatever. It's pretty clear, by the way, that he was the one who found the mushrooms in the snow in episode five. That was a
Yep.
question we had at the point.
Yep.
And we do see also, relating this to other episodes, when Sarah is her name, right? Betty Gilpin's character. When she goes down into the secret basement or whatever, she
Hmm.
ultimately finds that chair and hatch setup that we've seen a couple of times. She
Yep.
doesn't open the hatch. So we still don't know exactly what's going on there, right? But I think, that likely relates to what you were just talking about in terms of the pact that Richard makes with this dark god or the island itself or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What is the deal, bro? What is the pact? Why is I mean, because when we see in 1702, there's people dying of this plague. It seems like it's like the plague that turns you into a zombie first, you know,
Yeah.
um, and stuff like that's going on, and he never fills it in, actually.
Yeah.
Even in episode seven, when Tom's asking him, well, like, what was your end of the bargain? What did you have to do? Or whatever. He never actually says. As I recall, that question is posed to him. Then he says something like, I want to see my children's thing.
Yeah.
So does it have to do with that hatch? Probably. You suggested something about him, sacrificing people. All right, seems likely, but I don't know that we know for sure.
Yeah.
And that was a big question that lingered for me because it was like, all right, well, if he made a deal with the devil, we want to put it that way,
Yeah.
for the benefit of the island, and it was like, okay, well, everything's going to be good as long as you, make sacrifices to me every so often. Oh, and by the way, no one can leave, but it was like things will be good otherwise. That would quote make sense in a certain way, but that's not even what we see in 1702 when it seems like it's in place. There's very much things happening that are bad. So yeah, I don't know. Any further thoughts along those lines?
I couldn't help think about we talked I think early in this season about maybe some of the Stephen King homage that we've seen in this series and in these episodes so far. I kept going back to Welcome to Derry, which just earlier this year, where we have this lore of this being, this entity that shows up every 27 years. We haven't figured out a way to stop it. We know that every 27 years it's going to come back, and the price of that is some people are going to have to be sacrificed or give up their life for this thing to feed so it can be happy for another 27 years. And so all we have to do is try to our best to survive this thing and not anger it enough to the point where it gets worse. And so almost to me, sort of read as the sense of, all right, in these moments where things happen, and I guess in the more modern day, we've seen the fog coming in, some things that have sort of initiated this new round of the curse happening. When this stuff happens, people are going to die and horrible things are going to happen. We just need to get through it and understand there's going to be some sacrifice so that we can have relative time of peace after that. Now, we don't have that specifics about this lore, but it just made me think about that there's sort of this period of these things happening before we get some more, I guess, sense of peace and comfort on the island again.
Okay, and so then what Richard gets out of it is the ability to live on the island at all in the first place or something, and just
Yeah,
that, I guess,
the
because
part
we
of
do
the
have a
pack
bit of
must
that
have been that
backstory.
they then can't leave, right? So they, they didn't realize
Mm,
obviously what was going on when they got there, but the pact is now those of you that are here, those of you that are born here, you cannot leave, or you will die. Now I will give you some. This is again just speculation. We'll have some periods of peace if you let me, and again to use the Stephen King reference, if you let me feed for a period of time. But no, you're not going to be able to leave. You're not going to be able to escape it. It's going to always happen. You just have to get through it.
yeah, I suppose. I mean, you have the references to cannibalism early on, and Richard says something
Hmm.
about people eating dirt and stuff like that. And with what he says to Tom too, maybe that was the primary benefit, as it were, that hey, we won't starve out and die. We'll be able to live here.
Yeah.
But Tom is sort of right in his response to that. If that's all it is, like, well,
Yeah.
maybe it would have been better if no one ever did live here, right? I mean, um, mentioning homages, I did want to mention at some point the film that Evan and Kelly are watching,
Mm.
starring Christopher Lee, the inimitable Christopher Lee. I looked this up. It's called City of the Dead or Horror Hotel. Apparently, it's a British film
Okay.
set in Massachusetts or set in New England, and then for some reason in the U.S. they changed the title of the film, but it's the same movie.
Okay.
Um,
I've never seen
and
this.
apparently, I haven't seen it either. Um, I was reading a little bit about it, and it does seem very apropos and maybe a source of information. Sorry, I was going to say inspiration, maybe a source of
Yeah.
inspiration relating to Widow's Bay, or there's paying an homage or whatever. I wonder if there's some clues in there.
Mm.
Like again, I haven't seen it and I haven't made the time to watch it in the last 24 hours or whatever. I'm not sure if it's available streaming or anything like that. But it is set in like 18th century New England, and it seems like the plot has some similarities or resonances with what's going
Mm.
on in Widow's Bay. So yeah, that's out there to mention to people. Maybe we can track it down and we'll try to watch it sometime the next week. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's available to stream. I didn't even get that far. I was curious enough as I was watching the episode to go, man, I wonder what movie that is they're watching, because
Yeah.
it's there for a reason to some extent. Like the show creators decided
Yes.
to have them watching that film, but it might be nothing more than it's a movie where like the fiction, the story is kind of similar in certain ways. So, um, but there could be clues in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this. I think six and certainly seven as well dropped a lot of different breadcrumbs and clues of things. Whether it's in the some of the aspects of the story, the people that we see in 1702, some of the photos that we see in the more modern timeline we see, we at some point when we talk about this last shot of the painting, there are a lot of different clues for things that I think are still important to come. And so I do wonder how much they are sort of dropping things like that, or we could find meaning in movies like that, or in things that they reference. I bet there's a lot there.
Yeah, you, I guess what I question, again, I haven't seen the film, but just to know, like, how much should we read into things? Because
Yeah.
it's clear to me that this show is an homage to all sorts of things. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, you were just mentioning it and Stephen King and so on. Like, well, of course, it's broadly speaking kind of an homage to Stephen King in various ways.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to specifically follow the logic of it or of anything else, if that makes sense, right?
Right,
It's
right.
really kind of mashing a bunch of different horror premises together in ways that I think are working for the most part. Um, yeah, I mean, any further thoughts on the painting at the end? I don't know, really know what to do with that.
So I mean, I guess it's in some way tied up with I think a couple different possible paths. So we can, I think, to get to the painting, we can either talk about the idea that Tom and Wick think this is over because Richard is last of his bloodline and he is dead, or we can talk about Evan and Kelly and what they discover with the mother. I think both paths will get us there. So, sort of, which one would you like to start with?
All right, let's take them one at a time. Let's go ahead and start with the last of his bloodline thing because this is a question I've been thinking about since I watched the episode. The plan works insofar as Richard turns to, dust, as it were, in the coffin. But does it really work? I mean, there's two questions, I guess. One is whether he was right in the first place
Hmm.
about dying as the last of his bloodline, dispelling the curse. What exactly does that mean? That relates to the question we were asking before, I guess is why I wanted to start there. So, like, in other words, what did Richard and the settlers get out of the bargain? Because if this has broken the pact, well, like, what does that mean? Is it good or is it worser? You know what I mean?
That's right.
Um, but part of that, and I'm curious to see what direction the show goes here. Is I did find myself wondering, well, is he the last of his bloodline? Do we know that for sure?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if nothing else, his oldest son in episode 6 is certainly old enough that he could have gotten a girl pregnant,
I think that's right.
right?
I think so. So I think that Richard gives this idea that two things will happen. I will die if we go out to this place, and because I die, th- I'm the last of the bloodline. Curse will be ended. Okay. Well, we don't know about the second one, but we know that he was right about dying going past a certain point. That happened. We saw it. So I guess we're led as an audience to assume that he's also right about the last of the bloodline.
Yeah.
However, with three episodes still to go and likely another season or two coming, it is very, very, very unlikely that he was the last of his bloodline. So, what could that possibly be? Right? It could
Right.
be the
Yeah.
son did something. Um, I have seen several places. Now, I have not gone back and taken a look at this. Did the little girl, fall out of the boat when they are leaving the island?
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Okay, so I've seen several
I
people
didn't see that.
say that. I need to go back and watch it, but I think that may have happened, which could explain a lot.
Well, if you actually see that, interesting, and have double check the footage there. But I mean, whether we actually see that or not, you can still ask this question insofar as we're just kind of presuming that they all die. We don't see the kids die. You know
We
what I
don't
mean?
see them
We're just
die.
like
Yep.
accepting that because they were born on the island, they can't leave, and so they're going to die. We don't actually know for sure that that happened. We don't know what happened to Sarah for sure either. So that's one possibility if the girl fell out of the boat or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like we saw with do you think back to in the previous episode when Tom and his wife are trying to leave on the ferry and stuff starts happening to her,
Hmm.
he freaks out and turns around. So there's another kind of possibility where they get to a certain point and stuff starts happening to the kids for Sarah to be like, oh no, and somehow like take them back as a possibility. Um, yeah, I would be sort of surprised if they weren't going to explore that more. And the other thing that I found myself wondering, and I don't know if this is a leap, but you had all these mentions of the boogeyman,
Mm.
and one thing we were told there was that they couldn't kill him, and they had to like encase him in concrete or whatever. So it made me start wondering if somehow there is a connection we should be drawing between the
Yeah.
boogeyman and Richard.
Okay, so now we should start getting fully into theory corner because there's lots of things out there, lots of things that are people are speculating on, including myself. The one that I buy into is this gets us back to the painting. The painting that we see at the very end of episode 7 is of a girl in the water, right? So sort of. trying to, I guess, stay afloat, is that the daughter that fell off the boat. Sort of this is a depiction of that, and she makes it onto shore and she survives, and therefore the bloodline continues that way. Um, there's also theories out there that, Patricia's story about not being killed by the boogeyman is real because she is a descendant of that bloodline, which is also there's another theory that that Tom's wife was a descendant of that bloodline, which is why something happened to her immediately after she started going to that point on the ferry, and therefore the real reason why Evan can't leave the island because he is the last of the bloodline of that family. So it's all kinds of speculation. One of these many theories is going to be right. But yes, I find it very hard to believe that we've seen the last of that bloodline through Richard.
Yeah, yeah. I doubt that that was just like, oh, well, now that worked, and now we're on to something else.
Yep, yep,
It's possible. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about the idea that it could be Evan. I had thought about the idea that it could be Patricia. That's what to see where the series goes with this. But since we've talked a little bit about Evan and his mother, what do you make of this reveal that she didn't die in childbirth? We sort of already knew that from a previous episode, but I think we were still presuming that she died pretty quickly thereafter.
yeah,
And now Evan and Kelly are finding in this lockbox photos that include Evan as a toddler.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know, 2, 3 years old anyway, with his mother. The thing is, I also had kind of been under the impression that Tom thought she died in childbirth or was repressing memories or whatever. But if it's multiple years, that would put pressure on that. You know what I mean? In other words, like,
yeah.
was Tom lying or has he also been mistaken through some structure of repression or what have you? I don't know. What do you make of all this, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that picture showing Evan, what appears to be Evan as a toddler, shows that, yeah, there's 2 or 3 years there where it'd be very hard for Tom to forget about or have, sort of selective memory about the fact that his wife survived beyond childbirth. I mean, even, we did reference this a couple episodes ago. We see her in this sort of stupid state after she gives birth to Evan. And so, okay, well, something happened then, or there was complications there, and okay, well, that's clearly not what happened if these photographs are to be believed. And so there is um, it just, to me, it has to be Tom is covering up something. He had to do something with her. She did something and he had to take care of it, whatever it ends up being. It's just his former wife is now all of a sudden playing a very central role in sort of the mystery of this island. Whereas we always were curious about, okay, well, it seems like we know what happened. She died in childbirth, but now she may be like the crux of what we figure out over these next couple of episodes.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm still wondering insofar as I don't know, it's being overly charitable to Tom, but the other aspect of it is even for Evan, you know, I know that memories when we're very young are at least different, or you might feel like you don't really remember things before a certain age or what have you.
Yeah,
But I feel like probably some impressionistic type memories or something like
yeah,
I don't know. I'll throw out here my own personal experience with apologies that it tends to make people sad. My mother died when I was quite young. My mother died when I was like 4 years old, maybe three something. But I have memories. I have impressionistic memories. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like so it at least strikes me as a little bit weird, even for Evan, if he hasn't remembered at all, hasn't remembered her at all, even if he was still a toddler. Um, and I guess I'm mentioning this because I'm wondering, as a narrative possibility, whether the importance of her character and what happened to her could also have some kind of upshot in terms of it actually affecting their memories in a more supernatural kind of way, as
yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to just Tom being deceptive.
There was a line from Evan I found curious whether it matters later or not. he just very clearly says to Kelly, "I knew her." More than it just seems like a, oh, we spent time together. I knew her. Sort of like something is coming back. Maybe it is sort of these
Yeah.
impressionistic memories, seeing a photograph, but I knew her. Sort of seeing that there was time we spent together. It's not just I had no experience or no time or no memory of this person. There was something there that's been uncovered because they've now discovered this secret.
Yeah. So is it like, I mean, look, this is a supernatural show, so it could be like the Men in Black mind wipe thing,
Yep, yep,
uh, sort of thing being undone or punctured, or
yes, yes.
are there other examples of that too? What's the show where, oh, I think it was the Magicians, is what it was. The Magicians. Anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent and spoil the Magicians. I just thought of this moment in the Magicians where it's like this god basically is like, oh, I see you've got a memory block, and let me remove that for you. And it's like, oh, that was a bad idea. Um, so these types of possibilities occur to me here because I guess in part because it doesn't really seem to me like Tom has just been lying and covering it up. He's had something of an arc where at the beginning of the series he was definitely denying that there was anything supernatural at all.
Yeah.
But, part of how that relates to what we're talking about right now is if he'd had this experience with his wife, I mean, how are you going to be in such denial about that? I mean, I guess I don't know. There are
Yeah.
psychological ways in which you can make sense of that, but since it is a supernatural show or a show that involves the supernatural, I'm wondering about that as another kind of possibility here.
Yeah, and I can't help but draw a parallel also to Patricia. She's been telling this story for 25 years about what happened and her surviving and the boogeyman not killing her and is, we've never thought about Tom's story. Is Tom telling a story of something that, he has convinced himself or trying to convince others that this has happened, and yet there is really something else much more and much deeper, much more sinister sort of behind the scenes of why, of what happened and he knows it
Hmm.
or he knows a sense of it and is not sharing it. I wonder what connection there may be between Tom and Patricia more than just the friend and coworkers and they share right now. I think there may be something coming forward.
Interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I imagine we've got to go in that hatch at some point. I don't know what horrors await.
Yeah.
Uh, Worth mentioning, at least briefly, that we had the scene, at least, of the sheriff quitting in this episode. We haven't talked about him enough, maybe as a character. I do appreciate the performance here. The actor is what? Kevin Carroll, is that his name? He
Oh,
was
I
in The
think that's
Leftovers.
right. The cheer, Sheriff Cheer, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Sheriff Cheer is.
Make sure we're getting it
Great.
right.
This is great podcasting. Yeah.
Yeah, this is always good. It's always good. This
Kevin
is why
Carroll. Kevin Carroll. Yeah.
there's no one to know. It's great when it's like you're right and then you want to be sure, and so you waste time determining.
Yes.
But yeah, he played John Murphy in The Leftovers, so I'm a fan of his from then.
Hmm.
I thought he's been doing a good job in the series. I hope his character doesn't leave. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I like him being there. You know, I guess if he does quit, there is the possibility that Deputy Kent would get a promotion.
Yeah.
I don't think we mentioned it before. Are you familiar with Connor Ratliff at all? He
Looking
briefly
right
appeared in the
now.
show.
I don't think I am. No.
Connor Ratliff as Deputy Kent. He's an interesting guy. Does podcasts and stuff. He's been in various shows. Generally with like relatively minor parts. I
Yeah.
recall meeting him at a Twin Peaks fan event in New York years ago. Anyhow, he was in the show for like one scene.
Okay.
So I don't know if we'll see him again, but it just occurred to me, like if the sheriff does quit, maybe Deputy Kent will get a promotion here. Uh,
And Bashir strikes me as I don't know if we have confirmation. That strikes me as a local. So even if he left, he's not really leaving.
no, I think it's been established he is not a local.
Oh, he's not a local.
I
Okay. Why do
recall
I
this
think
from
he
a
is?
previous episode.
Okay.
I'd have to go back to find exactly where it was, but I seem to recall being established in a previous episode that he took the job on the island and he's from
Mm.
Boston or something.
Okay,
Um,
okay. That's
I'm pretty
helpful.
sure he could leave. Yeah, I'd have to double check exactly where that is. I did in one of the earlier episodes. Recall like in episode 1 and 2, there's a lot of information, and maybe I should go back and rewatch from the beginning actually, because on the first viewing, it was maybe a little harder to figure out what was important to remember and what wasn't. Like what should we focus on and what shouldn't we?
Yeah.
But I do vaguely recall that being in there that he's not from the island, so I think he could leave. What she tells him we don't get all of, but I did find that very humorous how we cut
Yeah.
back and it's like Patricia told him a bunch of stuff. And he's like, all right, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
done. That's enough. So that was all he had, but I don't need the other half. Yeah, I'm out of here. There's a chance everything will be good tomorrow. That sounds great. That's very yeah. So we'll see where we go from here. Other thoughts on this one before we wrap up?
Just one more shout out to, we haven't really talked about the character a lot, but just one more shout out to Betty Gilpin. She continues to find these roles, whether it's this one episode or, a series like Miss Davis or others. Man, just I mean, absolutely crushes it every time she's on something. I thought that, I mean, really, really powerful in the what? I mean, she's the star of episode 6, maybe 25 minutes of screen
Yeah,
time, just absolutely amazing.
she totally carries the episode. So I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. Performance is great. There are some great little moments of humor that really stem just from even her
yeah.
facial expressions and things like that. And
Oh, I was going to
yeah,
ask
I
you
mean,
one thing about her character. At one point, she says, "I am but just 4 and 10." Did you take that to mean that she is 40, or that she's supposed to be playing someone who is 14 and thinks of herself as a spinster already? Did you catch that?
um, yeah, I didn't, you know what? I didn't dwell with it enough for it even to become a question for me. Um,
Like, surely they're not having her play a 14-year-old, but I mean, maybe that's something the show would do.
I don't think so, but I mean, it is. I mean, it does kind of sound like something the show would do.
Yeah.
As a
And
gag.
the 14-year-old thinks that their lot in life already is to be a spinster. They're too old to get married.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a way to look into that turn of phrase if it might mean something
Yeah.
else. We're not going to waste more time on the podcast trying to do research right now. But if we find something in the coming week that seems interesting, there we can talk about it next week. Definitely enjoyed Betty Gilpin's performance and Hamish Linklater's performance. We didn't talk about him all that much either. I've personally kind of been a fan of his since he was in Legion. I know he's been
Yeah.
in some other stuff as well, but Legion stands out for me.
If I'm
And
not mistaken, I think the last thing I saw him in, which really loved, was one of was he in Midnight Mass or one of those Mike
yeah, I
Flanagan things
think
on
that was the one.
Netflix? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he was
that's
in
the one I
Midnight
liked.
Mass. No, he's been in various things and does a good job here. I mean, I don't know that either of them are going to win Emmys, but maybe possible. Um, all right, I suppose we'll leave it there. Thanks always for listening. Enjoy the podcast. Please do leave a good rating, review, all the good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out tvobsessive.com where you can find written work on all sorts of TV shows, past and present, into the future. If you want to follow us on social media, search for TV Obsessive and you should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back next week continuing to talk about Widow's Bay.
All right, looking forward to that. We will see you then.